Overpaying for anything sucks, especially socks, so why pay $45 for a single pair of grip socks when you can spend less than half? Pure Grip Socks Pro feature our best materials for optimal fit, moisture wicking, and performance at a fair price, just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
It's been a pretty big year for Nike in that they've changed pretty much every single model in their lineup apart from one, which of course begs the question, which ones are the best and which ones are the worst? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you as we rank all of Nike's current top models for 2021. Please keep in mind that these rankings will be based on both objective performance characteristics as well as my own personal preferences. So when you're talking about any type of rankings or even a review, you have to keep in mind that football boots are a very personal thing and you have to pick the ones that are best for you based on what you like. So regardless of whether or not I've ranked a boot high or low on this list, these are realistically all pretty good and you should pick the one that is best for you based on your own personal preferences. And once you've made that decision, you can save yourself some money by checking out the links down below in the description where you'll be able to pick up any of these boots below their normal retail prices by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes. As always, if you guys do end up enjoying the video and perhaps want to see more boot lineup rankings with other brands as well, please don't forget to support this one with a like. And also guys, I have a goal of 750,000 subscribers on this channel by the end of the year. So for those of you guys that watch the content, enjoy it, but maybe aren't subbed to the channel, it would mean the world to me if you could hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. Coming in fifth, or I guess what on this list would technically be classified as the worst, although this is by no means a bad pair of football boots, is the Nike Premier 2. Kind of an unofficial inclusion in Nike's current lineup in that it doesn't really get much in the way of marketing attention. Obviously, Nike is not paying any big name professional players to wear them. However, for its $110 retail price, it is significantly less expensive than all of their other top end models. And if you're just looking for a simple pair of football boots that fit well, are extremely comfortable, are made from some super high quality kangaroo leather considering the price point, with a sole plate and stud pattern that just feels very natural underfoot, this is a phenomenal pair of no nonsense football boots. If you just care about being comfortable and pretty much nothing else, this is one of the best options on the market. Now, it's no secret that I am not the biggest fan of the Nike Phantom GT2 Elite. However, that is not the only reason why it's a little bit low on this rankings list. I think the first thing that a lot of people, including myself, were a little bit upset about with this boot was the similarity between the GT1 and the new GT2. It is effectively the exact same experience with the flying upper that remains completely unchanged, and then the new generative texture that's scattered across the surface, now a chevron pattern rather than little lines, end result being a rough texturing on the surface of the upper that does provide additional grip on the ball without being sticky, but additional grip that feels like it did before, so what's the point of even calling it something else and changing it at all? The sole plate and stud pattern I think is one of the strongest aspects of the Phantom GT2, and I must say it does have its own unique fit in Nike's current lineup, where it's definitely a little bit wider through the midfoot and then kind of tapers through the forefoot and toe box area. So if you have the right foot for it, it's probably going to be one of the best fitting football boots for you. What I will say about the GT2 and the GT in general, because it was an issue with the first one as well, some people have reported issues with blistering on the back of the Achilles tendon. Personally, I have not had this problem, but it is something to be aware of, and it doesn't seem to matter whether you go for the DF version that I have here, which is the mid-cut model, or the low-cut version, which is $25 less expensive and probably the one that I would recommend if you absolutely don't need to have the collar. Nonetheless, it's still a really solid performer, and I think what it has on offer from an experience standpoint compared to other options out there, I think the main boot people want to compare this to is the Predator Freak, which I don't think this feels much like a Predator Freak at all. It's nice to have that flying upper with the additional texture without being overly sticky. So if all of that sounds good to you, I definitely think this is one boot that I can recommend, but as far as Nike's current main top-end models, it's my least favorite. Right in the middle, we have the Nike Mercurial Superfly 8 Elite, which I am separating from the Vapor despite them being so similar because I feel like the Superfly, mainly based on its name and now signature mid-cut collar, has kind of taken on an identity of its own. People either want a Superfly or they want a Vapor. And the reason why I have the Vapor a little bit higher on this list is because it's less expensive, and I think in general, feels a little bit better around the ankle area despite the construction being so similar. Not to mention, I feel like the Superfly collar has been dumbed down to a point where it's just very low and honestly kind of the cheapest it's been since the Superfly went mid-cut with the Superfly 4. Nonetheless, it's still an excellent pair of football boots, this current generation of Mercurial. While some people have mixed feelings about the transition from Flyknit into this new Vaporposit synthetic, I think the change is ultimately very good in terms of overall performance as well as touch on the ball. You could argue that comfort has suffered a little bit, but if you want that premium barefoot feel and that signature super locked in, super responsive Mercurial feel that only a pair of Mercurials can offer, you're getting it here from the Superfly 8. The anatomic sole plate and the extremely aggressive FG stud pattern remains more or less unchanged from the previous generation. There are minor tweaks, but it's something that you're not going to really notice that much if you're coming from a Superfly 7. And in general, there is just not much that I can criticize too harshly about this football boot, other than the price being $25 more than the Vapor for seemingly very little reason. Nonetheless, if you're a Superfly fan and a Mercurial fan, I think you'll be very, very happy with the Superfly 8. Not quite number one, but definitely my personal favorite of Nike's current lineup is the Nike Tiempo Legend 9 Elite, a football boot that definitely sees the most dramatic change from the previous generation, where it's still a Tiempo in that it does feature a kangaroo leather upper and a very Tiempo looking and performing stud pattern, not to mention the signature low-cut design, but the addition of memory foam inserts running through the leather area of the upper, some additional texturing, which I would say isn't very noticeable in the grand scheme of things, a central lacing system with this really clean kind of one-piece upper enclosure, maintaining a very traditional way of lacing up the boots, which I personally appreciate, a low-cut design with a top-notch heel liner, and a sole plate and stud pattern that, while not that different from the previous generation, has been tweaked in just enough ways to where it feels that little bit less bulky underfoot. In general, I don't think that this is a pair of football boots that has the speed boot-esque feel that Nike's marketing would lead you to believe in regards to the Legend 9, where they really touted this as the fastest Tiempo ever. If anything, this has a little bit more of a padded, dare I say, bulkier feel compared to most other modern football boots from Nike as well as other brands. But when you're talking about what your options are in this category at this $230 price point, this blows away any of the Copa Sense models from Adidas, and what Puma just did to the King Platinum 21 is an absolute disaster. If you want a modern take on a classic leather football boot, this is one of the best options out there at one of the most fair prices as well. Surprise, surprise, a Nike Mercurial takes up the one spot, specifically the Vapor 14 Elite. It bears a retail price of $250, putting it on par with something like the Adidas X Speed Flow 0.1, which at this point in time I would say is its main competitor, although the Puma Ultra 1.3 at $200 is a very compelling option. However, if you've been a Mercurial diehard for a long time, I think there's a lot to love about the Vapor 14 Elite. Everything I talked about with the Superfly pretty much applies to the Vapor 14, but it runs with a more true to the speed boot concept design with a low-cut construction that simply utilizes less material and I think just looks significantly better, although aesthetics are purely down to personal opinion. Nonetheless, this is a football boot that is super light, wraps your foot unlike any other, is incredibly responsive, feels so secure, really is connected to the bottom of your foot with this anatomic sole plate. With the structure of the upper and the aggression of the FG stud pattern, it really does give you that sense of kind of instantaneous reaction time as you run around and change direction. Nothing feels quite like a Mercurial Vapor, and I think this is an excellent take on how good a Mercurial Vapor can be. And there you have it, every current top-end Nike football boot ranked from worst to best. Do you agree with my rankings? How would you rank them yourself? Feel free to leave your opinions down below in the comment section. Again, if you're interested in any of these boots below their normal retail prices, check out those links down below in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to support it with a like. If you have any questions, also don't be afraid to leave those questions down below in the comment section. If you are not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.